man in this country, if you stand for the rights as enshrined in our constitution in this country, if you stand for food in people's homes in this country and jobs that they and dignity that they can aspire to in this country, then you have to mirror that with your views in the rest of the world. And if there is a part in the rest of the world, wherever it might be it in Sudan and Darfur, whether it be in amongst the Rohingya in Burma, or amongst the Indian population in India and in Kashmir, or in Palestine, if you are unable to stand up for those issues and say that my international solidarity mirrors what I do locally, then you are found wanting. Then the basis that you operate on is a dishonest basis.
That's very well put. Thank you very much for that and clearing that up for us. So we know, Mr. Kachalia, that voter apathy is at an all-time high. And now many people have this feeling that, my vote really doesn't matter. I'm only one person and it's not going to really matter. So what do you say to those who believe that voting is a waste of time in this current political climate that we are experiencing?
It's a conundrum that people in this country and other countries face in the absence of cogent parties and policies put before them. We are faced with an absence of statesmen. We are faced with an absence of real politics as there used to be in days of yore. However, if our constitution has been fought for to allow people to exercise their right to vote and their right not to vote. However, you must weigh up, when you don't vote, what the impact of not voting will be. And you must understand what a lower turnout will mean for various parties, and you must understand the voice that you can give to independence if you coalesce together to give an independent, someone like Zaki Ahmad in the Cape, for example, a voice. I don't agree with everything Zaki says,
right,
but I would support him because he's a breath of fresh air.
Alhamdulillah. It's been great chatting to you, Mr. Kachalia. Inshallah, thank you so much for your insights and sharing your thoughts on this current political process that we are about to embark on, especially with regards to elections. And at the end of the day, we all want what's best for our country, and we certainly hope and pray that we get the best possible result and leaders that will really represent the people. I think that's what we all are hoping for, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Take care. Jazakallah for your time. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
That was Mr. Khalib Kachalia, a former, DA, a member of parliament and a DA shadow minister as well, sharing his thoughts with regards to our current political process. Let's take a quick break, and the adhan is coming up as well. The time of Isha has set in, and we'll continue after that.
This dua is for the Isal Sawab of Marhum Shamsuddin Faki and all Marhumeen.
Allahumma ghfir li hayyina wa mayyitina wa shahidina wa ghaibina وصغيرنا وكبيرنا وذكرنا وأنثانا اللهم من أحييته منا فأحيه على الإسلام ومن توفيته منا فتوفه على الإيمان.
This azan is sponsored for the Isal Sawab of Marhum Muhammad Farooq Latib and all Marhumeen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them the highest abode in Jannah. Ameen.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة والدرجة الرفيعة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته وارزقنا شفاعته يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد.
This dua brought to you by Simplex Radio, South Africa's leading retailer of appliances, car sound and home theater systems.
These surahs after Azan are brought to you by Amina's Wonder Spice and Wonder Dates, 9 Peters Road, Springfield, Durban.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس.
Having a clean, comfortable home is every homeowner's pride. That's why Khan's Chemicals have developed and manufactured prime yet affordable quality household brands Starlight, Miracle Mum, Exterminate and Angie to care for your home and family. With a wide range of fabric softeners, dishwashing liquids, bleachers and all-purpose cleaners, pine gels, bubble baths and much more, Khan's Chemicals ensures your home remains our number one priority. For sales and other inquiries, call 011 933 4021. Khan's Chemicals, cleaning your home the way you want.
Monday to Friday, 6 to 7 p.m.
It is Radio Al-Ansar 90.4 to 105.6. It's a special election program. Welcome to it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. It is now 6:42 p.m. or 18:42, heading over to 43. And you in the company of myself, Siraj Basa, Sister Sumia Khan, and Brother Yunus Sakur. It's a special election program. And alhamdulillah, we got off to a very beautiful start where we got to chat to Mr. Khalib Kachalia, a former DA member, on his perspectives on opposition politics and the importance of this election. So I'm going to go to the panel in studio just now, but I just see this message here as well from Firdaus Sheikh Suleiman that says, Salams, love the show, first time from Fernaz. So yes, though it may be a first time for Sumaya and I to be sharing the airwaves, apart from the pledge lines that we have done, Brother Yunus and I have been working with for the very first episodes, the initial episodes of News in Focus, which we started in 2020, I think, just around the COVID time. So it's always great to be sharing the airwaves once again with Brother Yunus. But Sumaya, so you've been awfully quiet, quite the educational activist as well, and also you just talk about your thoughts on what we just heard Mr. Kachalia talking about, especially with regards to voter apathy, and why is it that we need to be present at the polls? How important is it for us to be present at the polls? And your experiences, from however, when you started voting, which was maybe 5 years ago, up until now. So share your thoughts and what do you think about the entire process?
Well, Siraj, Mr. Khalib touched on so many issues. He is right that the ruling party is tumbling. Because when you think about it, right, the president of our country, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, he addressed the nation yesterday. And it was very unusual, few days before the elections, where the president, you are the ruling party. But he took the advantage to showcase himself, talk about his accolades, and a lot of political analysts, they had their views. They say, they accused him of desperately trying to campaign for the African National Congress.
Right.
And just before the country takes the polls in 2 days' time. And
right.
I don't think we ever experienced that. And if you think about it, if you really go into what's happening into politics, if you think, was it a report back on the sixth administration, or is he canvassing for the governing party? Many political analysts, they say this should be seen as an indication of the seriousness of our election in 2 days' time. It's really serious, and sadly, or may I say fortunately,
right,
the ruling party, they want to stay in power. So, so he had to showcase his achievements. And when Mr. Khalib talks about, the DA, well, let's come back to home here. Phoenix, the incident at Phoenix,
right?
With John Steenhuisen.
Oh, yes.
If I can say
Show
this.
the door.
Exactly. The people of the community of Phoenix told him, Futsak, go, leave. And one of the spokesperson, Mervyn Rampersad, he's a member of a strong group calling themselves the Voice of Phoenix. Yes, the
Right.
Voice of Phoenix. He said the local government elections, we gave the DA all the wards, but instead they ran Phoenix to the ground. So he would never allow the Indian community, to go back to the DA. So it is a power struggle. We have Malema there who is very confident he's going to go in. So, it's quite hard to decide who you want to vote. So while listening to us, these are our views and opinions.
Right.
We just want to educate the listeners to make the correct decisions and who they are voting for.
All right.
And going to the pro-Palestinian, the pro-Israel.
Right.
So I think people kind of know where they're voting for. And our youth, especially if you're 18 years and older, still coming from school matters, it's so important to vote because you are the future of South Africa. We all complain there's no service delivery, fees must fall. But we say, why should we vote? It doesn't make a difference. It doesn't count,
Yes.
But that one vote counts. That
Every
actually
vote counts.
Every vote
vote
and
counts.
we need to make a change,
Absolutely. Before we head over to Cape Town and Voice of the Cape, Mr. Sakur is sitting very quietly there, so we need to ask him what his thoughts on what Mr. Kachalia had said, what Sumaya has said. How do you perceive this?
Listen, I'm not going to comment on what Mr. Kachalia said because he was with the DA for a considerable period of time. He skipped, and what he says, we must, listen with skepticism. I'm just trying to reflect on some of the important comments Sumaya mentioned about the DA in Phoenix. I was in that space many a year, and Indians in Phoenix and Coloreds in New Orleans and whites had a tendency blindly to vote for the DA.
It is always perceived that Indians voted DA.
That's right. But the realistic situation, and without supporting the DA in any way whatsoever, this is the realistic situation. Kachalia said that they sort of maximum achieve about 22% nationally.
Right.
And about 12 or 15% provincially in the different areas, which means that they're not in control. So no matter how many wards they run, the ruling party is controlling those municipalities. Hence, the DA is toothless, if I use the word, which means that the ruling party will take control of the policies of the municipality and indeed government. So in that way, we have to acknowledge that they are basically the opposition, but beside objecting to various issues, rightfully or wrongfully, they are literally toothless in government, besides the Western Cape. In the Western Cape, they're in control because they got the majority. So I want our listeners out there to think about it, that we must talk realistic language, not supporting a party, but look at who's in control.
Absolutely.
Sumaya mentioned that there's a decline in support with the ANC currently. And obviously, President Ramaphosa is pulling all stops to make sure that some kind of message is being given to the voters that give us one more chance.
Right.
We've got a renewal policy in place. With that renewal policy, we're getting rid of all those people that caused us problems in the ANC. But the critics are saying it took them 30 years to come to this particular decision. But at the same time, very important for us to understand is that they had 30 years to correct the situation and they've taken far too long.
Absolutely.
So the reality we face in South Africa is, how do we vote? Now, very important for us to understand, and I made this statement in Johannesburg a couple of weeks ago, when we looked at who are the majority voters in South Africa. And the majority of the voters in South Africa are undoubtedly the black voters, which constitute, as Brother Kachalia mentioned, 87% of the voters, potential voters. Now, I did a quick analysis, and to me, 75% of the voters in this country split their votes between ANC, EFF, and now MK. And MK is becoming a big player on the block.
Absolutely.
Later on in the program, we're going to chat about the importance
we'll
and the
talk more
impact
about
of the
that as
impact
well.
of
Yeah.
MK.
Yeah.
So my take in this matter is that this particular election is going to be the watershed of the way South Africa is going to be run.
Yeah.
Nationally, it'll be important to note how much votes the ruling party get. Experts are predicting anything between 38 and 43%.
40, yeah.
So obviously, if you come into 38, you need 12% of coalition with other parties. Provincially, there's going to be challenges in KZN, in Gauteng, and the Western Cape, and indeed maybe one other province. So it'll be interesting to see how the voters vote. Today they started special votes.
Yes.
Tomorrow will also
absolutely.
be special votes. Wednesday will be a really exciting day to see how voters vote, but we'll cover that later in the program.
Inshallah, we will. Yes, you mentioned the Western Cape, right? And of course, that is DA run. So let's go to the heart of the Western Cape, the beautiful city of Cape Town. Joining us now from our sister station, Voice of the Cape. We are joined by Brother Shafiq Morton. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and welcome to Radio Al Ansar.
Walaikum salam.
How are you doing, Brother Shafiq?
We're doing well, thank you. Alhamdulillah. We're just trying to understand what's happening in other parts of the country in terms of the run-up to the elections. In KZN, everybody seems to be talking about the MK party.
Yes.
Coalition of disgruntled and the dark shadow of Zuma over that particular province. But are there any other smaller parties in KZN that might actually make an impact and affect the inevitable coalitions.
Brother Shafiq, as much as we are quite enthusiastic and quite eager to see what happens here in KZN, as you mentioned, with parties like the MK, our focus is also on Cape Town to see what pans out in that region also. So that's going to be quite interesting in the Western Cape. But locally, yes, there is a lot of anticipation, a lot of excitement as to see what can happen, because previously, it was just basically the ANC that were guaranteed to win. You were guaranteed a seat in power if you were part of the ruling party. Then a few years down the line, we had the EFF, and now the MK coming into play as well. So a relatively new party and hitting some speed bumps on the way, but it remains to be seen, how much of the support they will garner. But other political parties that are making a difference, I think, yes, we have AM4C, which is well represented here in KZN, and Brother Ahmed Manzoor has been very, very vocal, coming with a very strong political voice, in Parliament, with his previous party being the chief whip, and alhamdulillah, I think he's coming out quite strongly amongst the local community as well. His message resonates across the board. So I think that these two newcomers are certainly a force to be reckoned with, and a close eye should be kept on them.
Yeah, in fact, in the Western Cape, it's very interesting because the DA has been top of the pops for about 15 years, but now it looks as if their 50% majority is under threat. It's very difficult to say. The opinion polls, I don't always trust them. The samples are usually too small, and the samplers sometimes poll people who haven't registered to vote. That's sort of the subscript to a lot of these opinion polls that we see. So at the moment, there is a kind of like a fear within DA ranks, I suppose, that they're not too sure whether they're going to make it or not. They're very confident on public platforms, of course, but it looks that as if the coalition scenario may not just be national, it could also be provincial in the Western Cape. And of course, the Allied Movement for Change are quite active in the Western Cape as well. You've got the Al Jamaa Party, you've got Mzansi, you've got the Patriotic Alliance. Gayton McKenzie has been doing a lot of electioneering on the Cape Flats to try and get people to come on board. And these smaller parties are probably going to eat away at the people that used to vote for the DA. The Freedom Front Plus, I'm not too sure. Last elections down here, they stole quite a lot of votes away from the DA because of the Musi Maimane being in charge of the party. We've got Mr. John Steenhuisen, who passed matric, leader of the DA, and it'll be interesting to see where exactly that one is going to be, whether the FF voters will go back to Steenhuisen or whether they'll stay with the EFF, who are pretty much of a spoiler down here. Not a big party down here, but pretty much of a spoiler.
But if you actually look at the concept of coalition politics in the Western Cape, right, seeing that the numbers are shrinking for the DA. Now, it's widely considered here in KZN that we would have the ANC, EFF, and MK, which are largely offshoots of the ANC as we see it, on the local scheme of things. In the Western Cape, should the DA's numbers fall as predicted, which parties are they likely to, incorporate in order to increase those numbers?
Well, they've got their famous multi-party pact, and members of it are organizations such as the Patriotic Alliance.
Right.
McKenzie is making a big move. I'm not too sure whether Borsa are, Musi Maimane's party. It's a long time since I looked at the multi-party alliance, the members of it. But a lot of the more conservative, smaller parties will be part of the DA coalition if they have to go that direction. ACDP, they might also be part of that as well. And some very, very tiny parties in the Western Cape. But they're so tiny, I can't even remember their names. But nonetheless, that looks like what the situation will be. Al Jamaa is going to probably get into bed with the ANC nationally. Allied Movement for Change are very strong on Palestine. And we all know that the Democratic Alliance, when it comes to Palestine, they are a little bit lily-livered. We don't get too much out of them on that one.
So what's the mood of the electorate in the Western Cape, right? Who are, of course, supporting the DA all these years, looking at what happened with the whole Palestinian issue, their blanket support for Israel, and of course other controversies that have come out. But I think it's the Palestinian issue that really looms large, in the greater scheme of things. So what's the mood and the sentiments on the ground in cities within the Western Cape?
I would actually say confusion, because so many people are asking me as a journalist, who should I vote for? This is the biggest question. And I keep on telling people, get a checklist. Which parties meet your needs? Is Palestine an issue for you? Then you don't vote for a party that supports Palestine. Is jobs an issue for you? Which party is the strongest on jobs, or strongest on roads, strongest on Eskom? Then you go through your checklist, and then you can make an informed decision as far as that is concerned. But not a lot of voters are prepared to do that. So you'll find that people are going to vote emotionally, I think. And it's going to be interesting to see how much the DA in the Western Cape is damaged by the Palestinian question. I think not as much as what people are actually saying, because what happens in our community here is people will go rah-rah at the marches and shout extremely loudly, but on voting day, the letters blow. They vote blue. So we have to be very, very aware of these peculiar dynamics of the Western Cape, where a lot of people on the Cape Flats, Muslims included, will quietly and covertly vote for the DA.
I think they would try to use the argument, and I just spoke about this a little earlier on, that it's not an issue which is affecting South Africa. We need to look at local issues, and many perhaps are confusing it with service delivery, which is on a local government level, which is not exactly what we're voting for at the moment.
This is the big question. Yes, in fact, I've spoken to 30 political parties leading into the election. And sometimes people will devolve into municipal questions, which is not really the answer. But of course, if the fish isn't rotting from the top down, it does mean that we've got a better chance of getting municipal delivery. Province has to work, and national has to work, as well as municipal has to work. So, yeah. People need to understand that province, for example, in the Western Cape, they are responsible for a lot of roads, for quite a lot of infrastructure. And sometimes that's where you need to look, because the city isn't responsible for everything.
Yeah, it comes from national. You're right. It's right from the top. So, Brother Shafiq, before we wrap it up, your final thoughts and sentiments going into the election come Wednesday, inshallah?
Well, the optimistic opinion polls have got the ANC at 45 to 46%. If that's the case, coalition will be fairly painless, enough small parties to step in. But if it drops below 45 and goes down to 42, 40 even, then fasten your seatbelt. It's going to be a rough ride. Julius might want to be deputy president, etc., etc. The market's going to get nervous. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting going forward. It's going to be game-changing, and I think game-changing for the better.
Inshallah, we shall see how it all unfolds. Brother Shafiq Morton, shukran for having us on your station as well, our sister station, and it's been great speaking to you here on Radio Al-Ansar.
Siraj, absolute pleasure, absolute honor.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
That was Shafiq Morton from Voice of the Cape, and yes, our sister station in Cape Town, taking the transmission from here, and also, talking about the election sentiments and the fervor on the ground, what's happening locally here in KZN and in the Western Cape as well. It's a minute away past 7 o'clock. We're going to break for the news, and we'll continue with this very special election program, Elections 2024. It's happening. Your vote counts. Let's go for the news, and we'll continue after that.
Straight Talk is proudly sponsored by World of Travel.
Almost 1 in 5 South African children attend school each day without having eaten breakfast. This seriously affects their ability to concentrate and understand lessons. The Al Imdad Foundation's Make Breakfast Possible campaign allows learners to enjoy a high-energy cereal at the start of the school day. Help children to focus on learning and not hunger. Let's make breakfast possible today. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
An informative Islamic global perspective. This is Al Ansar News.
Making news this hour, the 27th of May, the news from Durban 90.4 FM, Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM. Local media says a case of monkeypox is confirmed in the country. America Monina, a second case of monkeypox has been confirmed in the country, this time in KwaZulu-Natal. Health Department spokesperson Foster Mohale says a new patient is a 39-year-old male South African who was admitted at the hospital in Durban without a travel history to countries and regions. Mohale says the patient is currently experiencing the outbreak of the disease. The monkeypox, formerly known as Mpox, is a contagious disease that can result in a painful rash resembling pimples or blisters. Mohale says that the contact testing is being carried out to prevent further transmission. More news, the National Professional Teachers Organization of South Africa in KwaZulu-Natal, NAPTOSA, has warned that school closures during elections will disrupt the future of pupils. KwaZulu-Natal Electoral Commission spokesperson Tabani Ngwira earlier announced that 3,754 schools and ECD centers will be used as polling stations. The spokesperson for the Provincial Education Department, Muzi Mahlambi, cited safety as the reason for the closures. Mahlambi says electoral officials may need to access or gain access to the schools before and after these polls. He says that a pause in learning should not affect the academic program, as each school has its own recovery plan in place. More news, NSFAS, the student funding scheme, says it is committed to implementing SIU recommendations. This follows findings of fraud and maladministration within the scheme. NSFAS says it is implementing the SIU recommendations and taking disciplinary action against implicated employees to restore integrity in its operations. Briefing the media today, the scheme's administrator, Freeman Nomvalo, says the partnership aims to ensure accountability and transparency and also safeguard public funds.
There will be resistance to the papers we filed, I anticipate. Unfortunately, we are not in the best position we can be. You've got an irregular arrangement in place, but this irregular arrangement is also causing problems to students. The disruptions in some of the TVET colleges has been as a direct result of the current service providers' work. Some might claim that in the areas where they are operating, there hasn't been problems. But I'm making a statement that there has been problems in some of the institutions as a result of the current arrangement. So there is no reason for us to stay with the current arrangement. It's also costly. So there will be legal costs. We've got to figure out our way with the authorizers from a budget point of view.
Mornings, protesting taxi drivers have hijacked trucks and blocked main roads into Mthatha in the Eastern Cape. Report says that the protests are in response to a police crackdown following the outbreak of taxi violence in Mthatha last week. Provincial authorities are worried that special voters expected to make their mark today and tomorrow could be impacted. However, an eyewitness to the event has this to say.
We are very much concerned. The situation could have been handled if ever there was a real intelligence in South Africa. Because this thing, if when you follow it, you check, this thing started last week. But the ANC wants this chaos so that it can steal elections. This chaos could have been avoided. It's Monday today. IEC is not open in Mthatha. People who have applied and they were granted, you can come and vote. They are not going to vote, and we are worried.
The international story: Egyptian Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry and the European Union Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell have underlined the urgent need for a ceasefire in Gaza and an end to Israeli offensive in Rafah. They made the calls during yesterday's meeting in Brussels, where they exchanged viewpoints on the escalating crisis in Gaza. Both parties stressed that safe and unhindered delivery of humanitarian aid throughout the Gaza Strip must be ensured in order to address the immediate crisis there. They also emphasized that Israel must respect international law and protecting humanitarian workers, amongst other demands. Your weather, it's 21 degrees. A quick reminder of our top story. Local media says a second case of monkeypox has been confirmed in the country, this time in KwaZulu-Natal. That's the news.
Straight Talk is proudly sponsored by World of Travel.
People of Palestine need your support now. Africa Muslims Agency is on the ground, already providing food, medication, and emergency supplies in Gaza. Donate any amount to Heal Palestine at africamuslimsagency.co.za. Africa Muslims Agency, empowering, educating, inspiring.
The Outreach Slice of Life campaign. Since its inception, our Slice of Life has touched the lives of countless individuals through our distribution to schools, old age homes, orphanages, and deserving families within our community. This initiative has been instrumental in alleviating hunger. For only 9 rand a loaf, you will be providing a family with their daily staple, bread. Donate now on www.alansar.org.za or call Outreach on 031 208 1601. Plan your dream holiday with the specialist, World of Travel, as we pride ourselves in offering you the best in Hajj and Umrah. We also offer travel packages to the Middle East, Far East, and many more exotic destinations. Call our professional travel consultants now on 031 20 888 77 or view our website www.worldoftravel.co.za. Visit us at 44 Crescent Street as memorable journeys begin with World of Travel by Irshad Malik.
Straight Talk is proudly sponsored by World of Travel.
Siraj Basa on Radio Al Ansar. Straight Talk never sounded this good before.
It's 9 minutes past 7 o'clock. It is Radio Al Ansar on 90.4 and 105.6. Welcome to it. You in the company of myself, Siraj Basa, Sister Sumaya Khan, Brother Yunus Sakoor. It's a special election program which is going to be running from, today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, 6 to 8. Maybe even Wednesday beyond 8 o'clock as well, because we got News in Focus between 8 and 10 also. So inshallah, we'll see how that pans out. But nonetheless, it is a dynamic panel talking about very, very crucial election information, and talking about the process, the registration process, the voting process, the candidates, the parties, and a whole lot more, inshallah, which we will cover in the next 15 minutes or so. But as much as it is election season, it is also Hajj season, and you know that many people from Durban, Johannesburg, Cape Town, around the country and around the world are converging on the holy lands of Makkatul Mukarramah and Madinatul Munawwara in order to perform this once-in-a-lifetime journey of Hajj. And inshallah, Hajj is going to be in a few weeks' time. We had the 4-week group leaving, I think, just on Friday. We had a beautiful broadcast from King Shaka International Airport, and we're going to have many more groups leaving. So our sponsors of Straight Talk, World of Travel by Irshad Malik, are going to be our eyes and ears on the ground this Hajj season, inshallah. 14:45. They're going to be bringing us all the latest information as it happens on the Holy Land, and everything that's transpiring over there, and take you from your home, from your car, into those blessed lands, alhamdulillah. So that's going to be an amazing experience. So we're going to take a short little break, a little step away from the politics of things to focus on Hajj, and inshallah when we come back, we will continue with our political discussion with our dynamic studio guest this evening. So this is a special Hajj update by Maulana Muhammad Vanka, and we'll continue with the election program after this.
Respected listeners, Alhamdulillah, we in the blessed city of Madinatul Munawwara. We arrived on Saturday afternoon before Salatul Maghrib. MashaAllah, Tabarakallah, Madinatul Munawwara, the super amazing city. The city of Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the city of light, the city of Noor. May Allah bring us again and again to Madinatul Munawwara. Allah grant, let this be our final abode, that these wretched souls could rest in a pure soil of Baqi. Alhamdulillah, the Hujjaj are in good spirits. The crowds, I find this year, are not as big as previous years, but khair, mashallah, tabarakallah, just being on this blessed, piece of ground is a boon and a bounty from the side of Allah Rabbul Izzah. We arrived on Saturday evening. Saturday night, mashallah, we are taken the Hujjaj to convey their salams at the Rawda, at the blessed Rawda of Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Mashallah, that's always a special moment. Conveying salams for the very, very first time, or no matter how many times you come, because this is that piece of ground. The Qadi Iyaz has categorically explained that piece of ground where my Nabi and your Nabi is resting is more beloved in the eyes of Allah than even the Arsh of Allah. Is more beloved in the eyes of Allah than even the Arsh of Allah. So when we arrive in Madinatul Munawwara, there are many, many programs that normally take place. Last night we had an amazing program for the Hujjaj, on the adab and the etiquette of Madinatul Munawwara. I come to you currently as I stand and talk to you. I'm standing on that piece of ground where the Prince of Martyrs had laid down their lives for Islam. The great battle of Uhud, which had taken place in the third year after the migration in the month of Shawwal. The great battle of Uhud, the second most significant battle in the annals of Islamic history. The first battle was the Battle of Badr, when Nabi alayhi salam migrated to Medina, and the second battle was the Battle of Uhud. Subhanallah, it's always coming to this. It's an amazing feeling, knowing very well that I'm walking on that piece of ground where the Prince of Martyrs had laid down their lives, for Islam. So, Subhanallah, Tabarakallah, we make dua to the Almighty Allah. We come to, this piece of ground with this niyyah, to walk in the footsteps of these great companions of the Nabi of Allah. And I am standing by the Qabristan and the graveyard where the Shuhada of Uhud are buried. Sayyidina Hamza radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, the beloved uncle of Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Reference is made to this particular battle in the fourth juz of Quran Kareem. So indeed, being in the blessed city of Madinatul Munawwara, by us speaking about the Nabi of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, we do not add greatness to his greatness, not one bit. He is exalted by the very declaration of Quran. And like the Arabic poet says, Ma in madahtu Muhammadan bimaqalati, walakin madahtu maqalati bimuhammadi. I have not elevated the status of the Nabi of Allah because of my poetry, but on the reverse, my poetry has been elevated because of his name. By us coming to this particular piece of ground or coming to the city of Madinatul Munawwara, we do not add any greatness to its virtue, to its greatness. Wallahi, we come and we take from the barakah of Madinatul Munawwara. Those who have been to Medina, those who have been to this beautiful city, those who have been to this, this great piece of ground where the Prince of Martyrs had laid down their lives for Islam, can relate to what we are speaking about. Subhanallah, Tabarakallah, we make dua, Allah Ta'ala, on the day of Qiyamah, let us be amongst those that could stand up and we could rise up with the Shuhada of Uhud. Hamza, Sayyidina Hamza radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, when Nabi alayhi salam, I'm just standing here, I'm just trying to picture that scene, what it must have been when Nabi alayhi salam had seen the mutilated body of his uncle Hamza lying on the ground, that Nabi alayhi salam performed the janazah of his uncle Hamza repeatedly. And what does the Quran say? وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا. Not for one moment should you entertain the thought that those who passed on in the battlefield, they are dead. Nay, they are alive. Allah is sustaining them. So these are the greatest, the best of the best. Subhanallah, Tabarakallah. May Allah grant us the tawfiq that we visit this beautiful city of Medina Munawwara, Makkah al-Mukarramah, again and again. Those who have not been, on this journey, may Allah bring you, and those of us who have been, may Allah bring us again and again. And like we had mentioned in the beginning, whenever the moment of death comes, let that moment be in the blessed city of Medina Munawwara, so that we could rest in the graveyard of the Nabi of Allah and be the first to enjoy the intercession of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so that we could stand up with these great men and the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the day of Qiyamah. So inshallah, throughout the journey, we will be sending you updates and reports of the movements of the Hujjaj. So inshallah, from here we will be visiting other historical locations in and around Madinatul Munawwara. Barakallahu feek. Till we speak to you again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Siraj Basa on Radio Al Ansar.
Well, that was our live Hajj update with Maulana Muhammad Vanka. He is with the World of Travel Group, one of the spiritual guides on the tour, if you can call it a tour, for those that have embarked on this once-in-a-lifetime journey, alhamdulillah. Also joined by Maulana Musa Olga, as well as Mufti Zubair Bayat, as well as Hafiz Mahmoud Khatib from Cape Town. So a dynamic lineup, inshallah. I'm sure the Hujjaj are going to be gaining the maximum benefit from the experiences of the ulama that are there. And also you can watch their step-by-step journey on the social media pages as well of these, of the travel company World of Travel. It's 18 minutes past 7. It is your special election lineup for this evening, and we have our in-studio panel. And we asked you to send through your messages on 0609041056. So I got this one here, and it says, Assalamu alaikum to the panel. Siraj Basa, may your panel assist with the following. Now, this is a multi-part question, and I think Brother Yunus will be the most appropriate to field this one here. There are 3 ballot papers. Explain the reason for the colors. Differentiate between regional and provincial. That's A. B. After placing one X of choice, can the voter in addition still place an X on an independent candidate? On which category and color ballot paper will the independent candidate feature? Thank you for taking my inquiry, and we'll listen for guidance from your panel. Shukran from AR in Pietermaritzburg. Thank you for your question. And I think, Brother Yunus, this is so important because we talk about elections, we talk about voting, but let's talk about the ballot paper.
Yes, there are 3 ballot papers, and unlike the past, there's an additional ballot paper called the regional ballot paper. So the first question is, what's the difference between national and regional? National is a direct vote for whichever party you want for a seat in the National Assembly. You can put X's with 3 different parties, national, regional, and provincial. Just to illustrate, you'll be given the 3 ballot papers. So let's assume you're a firm supporter of, say, the ANC. Then you can put crosses next to the ANC poster in each ballot paper, which means you voted for the ANC in all 3 ballot papers, ANC, the national, provincial, and regional. But if you want to split your vote because you believe nationally the ANC is performing well, then you put a cross there nationally. Regional is basically the proportional representation from province to national, because not all the seats in national will be as a result of the ballot paper for national. So, for example, if you vote regional for another party, and if that party garners enough votes, then it'll enable that party to have another seat in national as well. So you can split your voting and put your X's with 3. For example, you support 3 or 4 parties, and you can split it, one in provincial, one regional, one national, or go all 3 one party. An independent candidate, depending, whether he is standing for province or he's standing nationally. Most independents are linked provincially. So if you support an independent, you put a cross next to the independent's name in the provincial ballot paper, and the other 2, you put the other parties. So that's in a nutshell what it's all about. Just to sum up, the proportion of votes achieved in regional will enable that particular party to have representation at national also. So it's very important that you put cross next to each particular ballot paper. If you're unsure, you're entitled to raise the query with those present in the voting stations, and they will explain you how it's done. If, for example, you make a mistake in the ballot paper, you're entitled to ask for another ballot paper, and the presiding officer of the voting station will be obliged to give you one. Because many people, when they go to the voting station, sometimes they make a mistake and they put crosses at two different parties. So that's a spoiled paper. So you don't want to have a spoiled paper going into to the box. So by all means, you can go to the presiding officer and request another ballot paper, and he'll cancel the one that you incorrectly filled in.
All right. So I certainly hope that answers your question.
Well, we have another message. This message comes from one of our listeners. Well, they said there's 3 ballot papers.
Yeah, basically send the images of the ballot papers. Yeah.
So probably you could put it on the Al Ansar group.
Yeah, on our WhatsApp status. Yeah. Brother Yunus, before we go to Sumaya, right, and of course, she's heavily involved in activism and technology and all of that, when it comes to the schooling. But there's a lot of emphasis placed on service delivery. And we did speak about this with Shafiq Morton as well, how important it is for us to differentiate between the two elections, because one directly impacts service delivery, but on the other hand, they say, if the head is rotten, the whole body is going to be going that way as well.
Interestingly, there were talks some years ago about having one election for all 3 spheres of government. Local government is, as you mentioned, services on the ground, and that's what we pay rates for. You pay taxes for the national prerogative. So provincial and national elections takes place once every 5 years to determine who represents us in parliament, both provincial and national parliament. And some 2 years after that, local government election takes place, where councillors are appointed on a ward base.
Right.
And they are the direct service delivery arm of government. Government actually ensures that political parties are involved in local government elections, because you have 2 types of voting in local government. You have what we call a PR seat, which is represented by the number of votes for a particular party, because you vote along party lines. And then you vote for the individual who's representing a particular party as a local councillor or as the ward councillor. So if, for example, Sumaya Khan is a ward councillor for the DA in the Overport area, then her picture will be there as a ward councillor in the Overport area, whatever the ward is, 31. And when you cast your vote in the ballot paper, it'll indicate that it's for the party, which is the DA one, and for Sumaya Khan as a ward candidate, 1 vote as well. And once the votes are counted, and if she's got the highest number of votes in that particular ward, she becomes the elected ward councillor. And then the other vote is for the party, and those numbers are calculated, which enables X number of votes to give an extra seat to the party. So they select a candidate to be the PR councillor. Now, it is very important for people to understand that 2026 local government elections is coming about, and this national and provincial elections will be the precursor for local government.
Right.
And people must prepare now for those elections. But however, 2 days' time, we've got the provincial and national elections, and it's important that we vote wisely, because at the end of the day, whilst we discussed that 3 of the big black parties will probably share 75% of the votes,
right,
and the other 25% will be between the opposition, which is the DA, and the smaller parties. However, a lot of smaller parties are quite optimistic that they're going to get much more than a couple of percent. And some of them are hopeful they get 10 and 11 seats, which constitutes about 500,000 votes of the 27 million. And these parties are working quite hard.
Right.
So we must not underestimate the smaller parties, because they can become the leverage for negotiation with the party that's in control. And maybe tomorrow we're going to chat about coalitions and how coalitions work, because today we don't have much time. We're talking about more important aspects about voting, which is the special votes and the normal votes that's going to take place on Wednesday. So having said that, it is crucial for people to understand that this election, it is about provincial and national. And as Shafiq pointed out, it's about policy issues. It's about infrastructure maintenance. For example, electricity, we know what difficulties we went through with load shedding.
Right.
ESCOM, reports to the Minister of Mineral Affairs and Electricity. So obviously that's a national prerogative. general road construction like highways and freeways, it's a national prerogative. Water infrastructure, it is generally a national prerogative. The local infrastructure is for the municipality, but maintenance of parks and gardens and general municipal services, our bread and butter issues like our electricity and water connections, etc., comes from the municipality. Our refuse removal and the like comes from the municipality. So those are not affected in this election. It is more the national and the provincial functions of government. And that's where your rates base gets impacted on, because to balance the sort of income and expenditure, that what constitute your taxes that you pay each year, and that taxes are based on your income. So the higher the income you earn, the more taxes you pay. And obviously, there are other grants that are offered to those that don't work, which comes out from the tax payment from the taxpayers. And then obviously there are other grants, etc., and loans that the government makes. But national and provincial elections are crucial,
right,
because they oversee municipal elections later on in the year.
Just to comment on the small party, the small parties, you say are quite confident they're going to get a significant number, that's going to perhaps help them into the corridors of power. But some of the things that you hear when you try to promote small parties or talk about, giving the small man a vote is like, they're small, they're not going to go anywhere. So how do we counteract that? How do we say, if you're not going to give your small guy the vote, then if everyone thinks like that, then he's really not going to get anywhere. How do we prop these small parties up?
Well, listen, the small parties are among the minority communities, including some other communities as well. And they obviously want to have a say in government functioning. And sometimes they can be kingmakers, particularly in provinces. For example, in KZN, it's going to be a highly contested province with so many parties that are contesting for KZN. Just to give an example, you have MK gaining momentum in KZN. Indications are that they may be, from the blue, get the highest number of votes.
Right.
Those are the indications coming through surveys.
These are the polls that are coming through, the exit polls.
Then you got the ANC, you got the EFF, you got IFP, which has been a stronghold in KZN. But you got a lot of small parties emanating, like AM4C. I know Imam has been with the NFP for a while, and he's quite verbose about the chances of his party. And he's indicated his is not a Muslim party. It's basically a multiracial party. And he's obviously stood up for a lot of things in national on behalf of the NFP, including the Palestinian issue.
Yes.
So he's strongly of the view that, listen, he's going to make a dent in the voting patterns in the different provinces. But having said that, basically the smaller parties want to make changes in national policy. They want to make changes in service delivery. They want to deal with corruption. They want to deal with maladministration. And by raising their voices in national parliament and in the provincial legislature, they will be able to provide an oversight role. And the alignment of these parties with sort of the ruling parties will be crucial, because obviously if you have a smaller party aligned with the ruling party, they can have a better leverage if they want to achieve an agenda of the minorities compared to just not aligning themselves. So as a voter, you need to understand exactly what is the thinking of the smaller parties.
Yes.
And if you join a party that's not aligned to the majority party, then obviously you'll be a toothless voice. You'll just be an opposition all the time.
Right.
So it all depends who can influence policy and service delivery. And a lot of small parties in local government elections have impacted on service delivery in a particular ward. For example, a particular small party may be in say, Ward 31, and they support the party that's ruling. Obviously, you might find service delivery in that area more effective than others, because I mentioned earlier on that it doesn't mean that if a ward councillor is appointed in a particular ward and supports a particular party, if they're not the ruling party, they may just be toothless, notwithstanding the fact that they won the ward. And this is why they're going to get criticism that there's no delivery. And we know human settlements is one area where people are saying, where's our housing delivery, particularly in Phoenix? The last we had housing delivery when I was in the municipality was 10 years ago. So they're going to come back and say, We've got no housing delivery since then. What's happening? And you guys have been ward councillors in this area, but the councillor is not going to say, vote for me, but I'm toothless.
Right.
You've got to think as a strategic
Yeah.
voter how you vote, and you're going to maneuver your vote because it's all part of how I'm going to impact on service delivery in my area.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk about the youth engagement in a bit. Let's take a quick ad break, inshallah. And Sumia will share her insights on that after this.
Straight Talk is proudly sponsored by World of Travel.
Advertising pays. Get your business on the map through advertising with Radio Al Ansar, the station with a proven record. Let's check with Simplex Radio to find out the impact on their business by advertising with Radio Al Ansar.
For us, it works very well. Our sales have increased and more people know about our store. I would definitely recommend advertising on Radio Al Ansar anytime.
There you have it. Join the airwaves and take it up to another level. Call us on 031-208-1601 and ask for Fatima Shahina or Faraz Bucks, our consultants. Let your name be heard by thousands of people. Radio Al Ansar, your partner in business.
Plan your dream holiday with the specialist, World of Travel, as we pride ourselves in offering you the best in Hajj and Umrah. We also offer travel packages to the Middle East, Far East, and many more exotic destinations. Call our professional travel consultants now on 031 20 888 or view our website www.worldoftravel.co.za. Visit us at 44 Crescent Street as memorable journeys begin with World of Travel by Irshad Malik.
Siraj Basa on Radio Al Ansar. Straight talk never sounded this good before.
It's election fever here on Radio Al Ansar. We have just about a day and a half to go if you really look at it, when South Africa goes to the polls on May the 29th to make their mark and be part of this country's democratic dispensation. And we're asking you tonight, are you ready? Are you ready for it? Are you ready to make a difference? And inshallah, we certainly hope that you are quite ready as well. So you joined on the airways of Radio Al Ansar by myself, Siraj Basa, Sumaya Khan, and brother Yunus Sakur. And we're just having a very robust discussion this evening. Now, Sumaya, you were at this debate that we had not too long ago, I think it was a fortnight ago, whereby one of the questions that was asked to the ANC representative was that why do we have leaders that were present in CODESA 1? Right, which the CODESA, of course, is the Congress of Democratic South Africa. It was the process that led to free and fair elections and the whole discussions with the apartheid government and the ANC, for those that don't know that. So nonetheless, basically, it came from a listener saying that why is it that we have leaders that have been there since the beginning of democracy? What about the youth representation? And I think this is where you can come in, being on the ground, being with the young minds and, shaping those young minds as well. Why are we not seeing, or are we seeing enough youth representation? And if not, why not?
Going back, if we go to the youth, we think of Julius Malema, EFF. He started off from
the Youth League.
Exactly. And when you think about it, he's quite confident that he might be the next president. And amazingly,
where does he get his confidence from?
But amazingly, a lot of the youth are his supporters.
Really?
Yeah. Well, all of us know that he quit the ruling party, the African National Congress.
Well, he was kicked out.
Yeah. Okay, he left or he was kicked out. But there's still allegiance there, huh?
Yeah.
To form his own and radically, like a leftish party, he could potentially become a kingmaker or even a deputy president if the ANC loses its majority in Wednesday's election, as the poll suggests. And, when you think about it, there's strike fears into the investors, the white upper middle class,
right?
If he rails against us and if he rules, and looking at the youth, our youth needs to get involved, especially, I'm saying this on air, all different races.
Yeah.
Because generally we just have Black Youth League, African, our Indian youth leagues, our colored, our whites, they don't really partake in being involved in decision making, leadership positions in our province, community, country. And this is really, really important. If they go and get involved, they don't realize it, from being involved in the youth league. Let me give you an example. Okay, everyone knows Julius Malema, but that could be your stepping stone into politics. That could be your stepping stone to become a councillor, to go into legislation or be involved in policy making. So it's really important. But when you also look at it, all political parties are adopting a youth league.
Right.
I noticed, Brother Yunus, this is something new.
Or is it new? Because we always had the ANC youth league.
Exactly, but I've noticed even the smaller parties have youth leagues. I was quite surprised when I was researching, and I think Al Jama, they have a youth
brigade as well.
And they're such a small party.
Right.
So everyone's vision and mission and aim is the same but different. You would never expect such a small party to have a youth league.
But I got to ask you, right? You said that Malema's message resonates amongst the youth. What exactly is he saying that resonates amongst them? And do you think perhaps it's populist politics? Just talking about, we see how effective that is in America.
Well, the most common thing is what? Fees must fall. Free education, jobs, promises. So when you think about it, we have university fees are quite ridiculous.
Yeah.
We have learners who haven't gotten their results because they haven't paid fees.
Right.
So now when you have a political party or a member who stood with the ANC, our main ruling party who's in power, and then you have Julius Malema from the EFF making these promises. If you go into DUT, if you go to UKZN and colleges and institutions just around KZN, I think you will have nothing less than 40 or more EFF supporters among the students there. And that's quite a lot. There's quite a lot. When you think about our marches in town, EFF, look at the crowd. And 70 to 65% are just the youth.
Right.
So I think, coming from the youth league, probably he got that little touch where he can still win over the youth. And also a lot of Indian people. Oh, would Julius Malema, would you ever think about that?
I would have never thought about that. Yeah, but it was a representative from the EFF at a political debate was actually an Indian. Yeah. So
exactly.
I guess his message is not only confined to the black constituency.
No.
It's resonating amongst everybody in South Africa.
We just have to wait and see. Well, I have a message here from Brother Milo. Well, this is just his prediction. He says ANC, 40 to 50%, the DA 20%, the EFF 15 to 20% votes, IFP 5 to 10%, and MK 5 to 10%. Smaller parties 5 and 10%, 1 or 2 seats each, maybe 5 for best or of the smaller parties, like Action SA, Rise Mzansi, and all the others. FF 5%, ACDP 5%, and batting to predict who will occupy the 80 seats in KZN legislature. Emergence of the MK has just thrown everyone off the spanner in the works, and it appears most likely that the smaller parties, 10, if not more, will get 1 seat each. Usual suspects are the usual 5 or 4. What are they? The ANC, DA, IFP, EFF. Well, EFF has made it. You think about it, they have come quite long.
Within the top 3 of the parties in the country. Yeah.
And these guys will battle it out with MK for top 5 positions, and probably all 5 will occupy the 70 seats.
So that message comes from
Milo.
You heard of the Gallup poll, so that's the Milo poll. That's the Milo poll.
Right, if you're listening, well, this is called the Milo poll.
The Milo. What are your thoughts, Brother Yunus, on that?
I think that's just guesswork.
But there's coming with some level of what we're seeing happening in the media predict. But these are just predictions, and polls are just not 100% accurate.
This is the reality for most important polls, like Ipsos and others, indicate that in national, the ANC will vary between 38 and 44%.
Right.
I think, as brother, what you call, pointed out from the Voice of the Cape, he mentioned that if the ANC gets 45%, then that 5% from the smaller parties wouldn't be a problem. If they get below 43%, then it'll be a huge challenge. But ultimately, the ANC will reign as favorites to take the national polls, given the numbers and the support they have, unless we all are surprised. But most critics are saying that nationally the ANC will take control. Cyril Ramaphosa will be president. It all depends on who votes from the ANC for him. But the fact that he's held the reign for a while and he's made some fundamental changes, and he's also brought in the renewal focus of the ANC, where he's gotten rid of the problem people, they are hopeful that he will make those changes. At a provincial level is where the real drama comes in. And KZN and Gauteng, as I mentioned earlier, have been, the largest number of voters provincially. And that's the support base of the ruling party. And that has been badly split this year. So it'll be interesting. And we're going to have to watch the results on Thursday as it comes in those provinces. And it's going to make very interesting reading, Siraj, the KZN results.
Yeah.
So Wednesday, I think the voting stations close at 6 o'clock.
At
So
6 p.m.?
results-
Yeah.
6
So what time does it start? Yeah.
It starts, I think, at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m., but
8 a.m.
8 a.m., yeah. And 6 p.m. it closes. The results will start coming in after midnight, and they'll be counting throughout the night. So by Thursday evening, you'll get some indications, depending on counting and recounting, how the voting results are going. So I said KZN and Gauteng will be keenly contested, and the residents of those provinces will be looking at the results very carefully. And Alan Saab, together with other radio stations, will be there to broadcast the results. And side by side, the national results from the Nerve Center in Joburg will be coming out. Hopefully by Sunday, you will have a clear indication exactly which way the entire elections are going. But having said that, we got a day and a half for elections, tomorrow for special votes, and Wednesday it's when the game starts. And whilst everybody is predicting, voters have promised that we're going to vote a particular way, on the day of voting also things can swing depending on how the canvassing goes on the ground. And whilst they're saying open canvassing is not allowed, but behind the scenes people
They are
do
canvassing.
take their bus loads and they we don't know whether
Yeah.
exchange of money takes place. But at the end of the day, people will start voting, sometimes with their heart also.
Yeah,
They said, ANC brought democracy, I'm going to put the 3 crosses there.
Oh, yeah,
But other
definitely.
guys may say, but these guys haven't delivered.
Yeah.
Maybe some guys will say, but, let's give them one more chance.
Yeah.
Those that are going out on the field and asking, are using various reasons why things haven't worked out,
Right.
particularly if there's maladministration and
Yeah.
corruption. But I go with what some political analysts have said. Sit back and reflect that what outcome you want from this election before I put my cross, especially
Right.
those that have registered to vote. Don't get lazy and decide, listen, I'd rather refrain. A lot of ulama are telling us that what value you're going to get, because most of these parties are corrupt in any event. But
Yeah.
a lot of people are saying that if you don't cast your vote, then you won't, as a resident of the country, you won't really be indicating what type of situation you want. So I think look at the different parties, apply your mind, and say which party will fit my expectation, and go there with conviction and put your cross next to the names. And as I mentioned earlier, you don't have to vote for one party in all 3 ballot papers. You can vary it. You can have 3 different crosses with 3 different parties. So you're basically ensuring that, I'm not going to use the word betting, but you're ensuring that you reasonably cover your vote to the parties that are contesting the elections.
Siraj,
Yes, Samira.
what's so current right now? As we know, the South African, the police, national informed, they indicated that possible nationwide party protest in May and June.
Right.
Because the Constitutional Court of South Africa, they ruled that Mr. Zuma cannot stand,
Yeah.
and
He
he
has to
needs to
sit
wait
down,
5
yeah.
years. Now, many, especially we in KZN, we fear the risk of intimidation,
Mm.
malice, damage, property, arson, and remember we were barricading the roads, looting and hijacking of trucks. So will this take place? That's on every I think, KZN person, because we've been having little small spates of protests
here and there.
We've been seeing. We had was it the N2 going to Pavilion?
Yeah,
that was
N3.
N3. And then today we had, I think, around Burnwood Road, around Springfield protests.
Yeah.
So that's how it started. So I think a lot of our listeners are also on edge.
Quite wary about that. So yeah, we'll talk about that, the ramifications of that verdict, and also the free and fairness of our elections. We'll talk about that in a bit. Let's take a quick ad break, inshallah, and then we'll continue.
Straight Talk is proudly sponsored by World of Travel.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness. And every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and Freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Plan your dream holiday with the specialist, World of Travel, as we pride ourselves in offering you the best in Hajj and Umrah. We also offer travel packages to the Middle East, Far East, and many more exotic destinations. Call our professional travel consultants now on 031 20 888 77 or view our website www.worldoftravel.co.za. Visit us at 44 Crescent Street as memorable journeys begin with World of Travel by Irshad Malik.
Straight Talk is proudly sponsored by World of Travel.
Siraj Basa on Radio Al Ansar. Straight talk never sounded this good before.
Welcome back to Radio Al Ansar. Remember, you can watch this discussion live on the Radio Al Ansar Facebook page. That's facebook.com/Radio Al Ansar. And you can see us, what we look like as well, and whether our voices match our looks. Yeah, sometimes people have this idea. I think with so many years in Radio Surveyor, I think everyone should know what we look like by now.
Do you know what? People think I'm this old lady with glasses because I've been here for so long.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before we go back to our discussion, a very quick message here that I just want to read out. My sister Nasima Muhammad, she says, Salam's lovely team and panel. I voted for one party in every election. This time around, I did some soul searching for obvious reasons. But my mind was still on this party. To have further ease, I prayed for divine guidance. It gave me some thought. I will remain with my party. ANC protects my interest. ANC protects my interest. After everything that's happened, if they still govern, they would have learned their lesson surely. May we all vote wisely, inshallah. Be wise. Love and du'as from Sister Nasima Muhammad. This touches on basically, Brother Yunus, what you just said earlier on, talking about why people would vote for the ANC.
Listen, I think it's important for you to consider not only the positives, but not only the negatives, the positives. What has been delivered, a lot has been done. And who brought democracy into South Africa? I mean, you need to consider that as well.
Right.
And there was an overwhelming victory. Whilst I'm not now asking you to vote for any particular party,
yes,
at this stage, apply your mind and consider who can deliver and who's going to be in national controlling. Because ultimately, national drives the agendas for the other provinces. But I also mentioned KZN and Gauteng is going to be hotly contested. So it'll be interesting to watch those results and watch nationally. But there's been a decline. And I think, ultimately, if you were given several opportunities and you're not catching a wake-up call, is this the last wake-up call?
Right.
So to my ANC comrades out there, understand that you got to catch a wake-up call if you want people to vote for you. So really make that intention to make those changes, because everybody is aware the ruling party took Israel to ICJ, and there were positive results from there, which is a plus factor for the Muslim Ummah, as Mr. Morton was saying. But ultimately, there's no such a thing as favors anymore.
Precisely.
So we got to look back and say, who's going to make a change in my life? And if we certainly believe in the ruling party, then by all means, you make the choice.
Are we the electorate in an abusive relationship, where our partner beats us up and, they apologize, we accept, we carry on, we give them a second chance? Is it, can we equate that?
Well, listen, when we're concluding, I'm going to chat about that, which I always do in News in Focus. And I always argue that point, that no matter who is in control, and I'll say that now, we know as Muslims that Allah is in control.
Allah is in control.
And we might be a minority in a black majority country, but we turn to Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala changes the mindset of people. And we know with this Palestinian issue, suddenly from the blue, Sister Naledi Pandor, as the Minister of International Governance, took it upon herself together with the Minister of Justice and took Israel to ICJ. And there's a lot of pressure for South Africa to withdraw that case. And it's very important for us to understand the impact of our voting based on the fact that it's a very emotional and sensitive issue, the issue of Palestine and what's going on there. So not only Muslims, Kachalia also mentioned that also non-Muslims are sensitive of the atrocities that are taking place there.
Yes,
so we must not forget certain good that has come out from actions taken. So let's make istikara as Muslims and make du'as that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides us to put the crosses next to the party, which we believe will be able to make changes in the lives of people, not only in South Africa, but throughout the world.
Absolutely. So, Maya, you touched on that very important issue about stability, political stability, the protest action that we've seen playing out in various areas in Durban, very reminiscent of what happened in 2021, which really, makes one's hair stand on end when we find that, we relive what happened back then. Are we likely to see any disruptions coming through? I know it's hard to say, but threats coming through from various political factions, ears on the ground. What's the mood? What's the fervor at the moment?
I think the South African police information received indicates that there are possible nationwide party protests in May and June, because the Constitutional Court, as I mentioned, South Africa ruled that Mr. Zuma is unfit to rule due to his 15-month sentence. So he needs to wait 5 years. And so people fear this because last time it was also, similar stories. So we just have to make dua and just pray that it doesn't happen.
And we don't see a US-style insurrection. Is the possibility of that happening, with Yunus?
Well, not really, but I think very important that before Wednesday, we're going to continue our discussion tomorrow. And make some other analysis, on voter education, on civic involvement in affairs of the country. We're going to unpack all that. But ultimately, our objective is to give our listeners and voters an opportunity to make an informed cross next to the names of those parties in the ballot paper. And I had a look at the ballot paper, and there's many parties and some confusing. For example, you've got AMC and you got ANC. So Africa Movement for Change, and you got African National Congress. So there's a lot of confusing names that are quite similar. So don't get confused when you're making your crosses in the ballot paper, because some parties, their names are close to other parties, and people make mistakes, but that should be few and far between. So ultimately, when we continue with our program tomorrow, indeed on Wednesday, tomorrow we'll make it much clearer to our listeners that these are the indicators you take when making your crosses, because I think that's absolutely crucial before Wednesday, because that's the large number of voters that will be going to the polling stations and the timing of the polling stations. But I'm just picking up on what Sumaya mentioned. I think SAPS and indeed the army have got the security checks through the national government in place to ensure that there's a peaceful process of elections and voting, etc.
Absolutely.
Where the problems crop up is in the remote areas, in the rural areas, where you have technical challenges and you also have logistical challenges, and then people start opening up the voting stations late, and that becomes a problem. But I'm sure IEC has got that all checked out. I did go to the nerve center at international conventions, and they're quite jacked up.
They're quite good.
And then
yeah.
they've got, I mean, now this is the 30 years into democracy. So IEC has got it more or less correct and right, but we just got to watch the provinces that have controversy, that is Gauteng and KZN, where they expect to be some kind of unrest. But I think SAPS will have that under control.
So just to be clear, special voting began today and it's going to be tomorrow as well.
Correct, till 5 o'clock.
And you had to have registered for that.
That's right. About 1 million people are involved in special votes of the 27 million.
So
we're hoping that million will have their votes or their voting done on those 2 days. If they don't, then they can go in on election day. But there may be queues all over the place.
Yeah.
People enjoy it on Wednesday. It's a public holiday.
Yeah, it's a holiday.
But I believe I was hearing an earlier program where they say schools will be closed
for the week.
Period.
Yeah,
but I don't think all
it's not all
schools.
schools.
Only those that are polling
voting,
stations.
yeah, voting,
so you at work.
Yeah, we had work, unfortunately. But, that caused so much of confusion because a department sent a gazette out, a letter, and people interpreted wrong.
They thought everyone's getting a blanket holiday.
And, only schools which are voting station, 1 week. 1 week.
1 week.
Extra
and
June holiday.
So, Sumaya, can we get your parting words for this evening before we wrap up? We got like 2 minutes left.
Well, we just have to make dua. We just got to pray. Unfortunately, in these times, it's difficult to find a perfect or an ideal party or even a candidate to vote for. So as our both guys who we linked up from the Voice of the Cape and Khalib, they said, write down, take a book, do your ticks what you want. If you want service delivery, what you are looking for. If you're looking for gender-based violence, if you're looking for equality, if you're looking for, different aspects, make a note of it and then try to do your research on each party and then you vote for them. But I think that should have been done a long time ago.
Yeah, that homework should have been done. But it's still not too late. Brother Yunus, your concluding
Yes, we'll
remarks?
continue with our discussion tomorrow.
Yeah.
My suggestion is there's a dua for voting, and also ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this a peaceful election and may the right leaders be appointed. So inshallah, we'll continue our discussion tomorrow between 6 and 8.
Inshallah. Remember that this process and whatever we enjoy in our country is a blessing. It's a ni'mah which has been given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We see the world over where people's rights are being trampled on. People are being murdered, mercilessly. And as much as we pray for them, we must pray that these favors that have been bestowed upon us must stay with us, and we must be given rightly guided leaders, of course. Shukran, thank you so much to my panel. Thank you to Zakaria as well. Thanks to everyone for being part of the program. And it's not the end. It's the special election program which will be coming through tomorrow as well. There will be no School Matters because the School Matters presenter will be here in studio with us. There'll be no Straight Talk as well. And of course, it's all leading up to Wednesday. And we're here just to educate you and to inform you and perhaps, clear up some of the issues that you may have. And now that there's a special program dedicated for that, you can send through those queries and questions and everything else as well. Until tomorrow, take care. Have a great Tuesday. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
This segment is brought to you by World of Travel.
There are over 200 million orphans globally. We can't help all of them, but what if we each helped just one? The Al Imdad Foundation